So the movie begins with an animation and tells the story of a baby deer. This baby deer's name was Bambi, who lived in the forest with his mother. Their life was quite happy and uneasy, but one day some hunters hunted his mother, leaving him alone in this dangerous forest. He spent years alone, evading the dangers of the forest. After that, Bambi finally found a partner. His family began to grow again. He now had a child. Because of this, Bambi was as happy as he was in his childhood. But perhaps fate did not see his happiness. It was here that their happiness began to be hampered again, as humans began cutting down forests, forcing them to move from home to home every day. One day, while Bambi's entire family was crossing a forest road, a speeding truck crushed them. Bambi was injured in the minor accident. Unfortunately, his wife was needlessly killed due to the truck driver's negligence, and his children, frightened by the accident, had fled back into the forest. The truck driver stopped, but not to help. Instead, he went to the riverbank and dumped the drums filled with toxic chemicals into the water. Afterward, he fled as if he hadn't done it. Bambi, having lost his family once again, was driven mad with grief and anger. Suffering from thirst, he drank from the same river into which the man had just mixed the toxic chemicals. After drinking the water, Bam begins to writhe in agony, and for a moment it feels like Bambi will die. But instead of killing him, the poison transforms him into a strange creature. As Bam writhes in pain, we see his bones growing. The sounds of bones breaking and joining were so terrifying that it was difficult to watch. His muscles also began to swell, and his teeth became terrifying, transforming him from a cute deer into a terrifying monster that could now walk on 2 legs instead of 4. He was already mad with grief and anger. After enduring this pain, he vows to avenge his family on humans at any cost. The scene cuts from here, and we return to reality. We were shown Gina and her son, who were going to celebrate Thanksgiving with their family. But Gina was extremely upset because, as usual, her husband had canceled at the last minute. Now Gina had to go on such a long journey alone with her son. She couldn't risk making such a long drive herself, so she booked a taxi to take her to the cabin in the jungle where her helper, Benji's grandmother, lives. The winding jungle roads are making Benji unwell, and his father's absence has put him in a bad mood. Then Gina jokingly remarked, "So what if your dad didn't come? Who would dare to venture out into this jungle?" Hearing this, the driver became serious and warned them, saying, "This jungle is no ordinary jungle. People often disappear here." Benji begins vomiting again and urgently asks the driver to stop. Just as the driver applies the brakes, there's a sudden explosion. Something very heavy hits their taxi. The impact was so strong that the car is thrown into the air, and due to the loss of balance, it falls into a ditch and overturns. Gina and Benji manage to escape the wrecked vehicle, saving their lives. At this time, he was both seriously injured and terrified, having felt that someone had brutally dragged the driver away in the dark. He had also said that people disappear here. This frightened them even more. To add to their fear, an even more terrifying sound is heard in the silence of the forest. A growl and heavy footsteps make them realize that someone is hunting them nearby. To save their lives, the mother and son run through the forest and finally reach Grandma Mary's cabin. Inside, the rest of the family was waiting for them. All of Simon's brothers, their wives, and children were there, and everyone was in a bad mood because Simon and Benji's dad hadn't arrived. It was there that we learned that Benji's grandmother had dementia. She always sat in her chair, talking strangely and drawing strange, scary sketches. Suddenly, there were loud knocks on their door, and as they went to open the door, it was revealed that Simon's family had arrived. At this point, they were both very scared and trembling. They all relaxed and took them inside and asked them what had happened. Benji told them about the accident in the forest and the animal that had dragged the driver away. Simon's family was extremely confused. Simon's brother tried to be brave and clever, picking up a flashlight and saying, "I'll go help the driver." At the same time, we saw some other people in the forest. They were very skilled hunters, But today, they hadn't come to the forest to hunt. In fact, they had received a very big contract. His mission on behalf of the company is to find and kill the mutated Bambi so that he can become the king of the company, who has been terrified that animals are now turning into zombies because of their own toxin. They were leaving when they found a broken taxi near the ditch. Seeing this, the hunters panicked. Then they heard the sound of something. Frightened, they fired in that direction, not thinking that if there wasn't an animal there, something similar had happened. Simon's brother, who had come to save the driver's life, had now lost his own life. Seeing the boy dead, the other hunters became angry with their comrade and decided not to let this go. They dug a pit, hid the body, and left. The scene changes back to Benji's grandmother's cabin. Still terrified, Jinnah begins looking at the drawings her mother-in-law had made and notices that all the drawings feature only one thing: a large black deer with a very dangerous-looking antler. If Grandma was drawing this monster, it clearly meant she had seen it very closely, and Jinnah now understood the danger was very close. Benji approaches his grandmother to see what she's saying. She keeps repeating the same thing over and over again. He's playing in the park in front. Unable to understand what his grandmother is saying, Benji looks out the window and screams loudly because the monster was standing among the trees at the edge of the forest. It was Bambi, the deer transformed into a Jambi, standing on his two legs like a human. His eyes glowed red like fire, and the large lions were making him even more terrifying. When suddenly, Bambi let out a loud roar and ran towards the cabin. Panic broke through the house. Everyone tried to save themselves, but Bambi had already broken through the door. Benji and Benji's uncle quickly ran out to save themselves, but Benji's aunt tried to hide in the bathroom. But Bambi broke through the door there too and let his lion step inside her body. He does. She escapes through the bathroom window, saving herself for the moment, and Bambi is now chasing her. The three, already in the car, watch with their own eyes as Bambi brutally kills her by stumping his horn around her neck. They desperately try to start the car to save themselves, but it refuses to start. Terrified, they see Bambi now coming towards them to kill them after vandalizing their house. Finally, their luck runs out and the engine revs. Starting the car, they drive it back toward their road, but Bambi is still chasing them, making huge leaps. He keeps trying to knock them off the road, but Benji's uncle was a good driver. He maintained his balance for a long time and kept his speed up, allowing them to escape and overtake Bambi. But after a short distance, a huge tree blocked their path. Now they were completely trapped. They could neither go forward nor backward. Time was running out. Bambi was about to reach them soon. They all decided to move the fallen tree out of their way. Benji's uncle said, "I will go out and tie a rope to this stick. The others will push the tree to the other side, creating a direction, and the final push will be from the cart, causing the tree to fall towards the forest, creating a path." Here, Benji was given a huge responsibility because he had taken the driving seat. They're all set up when suddenly from the darkness emerges the monster, the Bambi. Seeing this, Benji is so frightened that he doesn't even realize he stepped on the accelerator. As a result, his uncle, who was holding the rope to his foot, is dragged along by the rope and his face is badly injured. His son, who was left behind, also tries to escape the monster and ends up in the forest. He doesn't become Bambi's prey, but here, in anger, he kicks a small rabbit and takes out his anger. But now that rabbit, along with his friends, has come seeking revenge. It turns out that his little rabbit friends, transformed into dangerous zombies by the toxic waste, attack the boy, knock him down, and begin eating him. Here we're shown a scene in the van. The hunter's truck arrives at the spot where their van had been parked. Seeing them, Jinnah stops to offer help. Therefore, the hunters take them all aboard. When they arrive at their base, Jinnah and Benji are shocked to see that Simon is also there. Despite living in the same area, he hadn't come to dinner with his family. What important business did he have? Simon now reveals to them the harsh truth. He is a high-ranking officer of the same toxic waste company. He had made a huge mistake because he had ordered his toxic waste to be dumped in the forest because they required a lot of work to make it environmentally friendly. So Simon decided not to spend the money on cleaning up the waste, but instead kept it for himself and dumped it into the forest waters. After drinking the toxic waste, Bambi and several other animals in the forest transformed into terrifying monsters. If this had gone outside the company or anyone had found out, the company and he would have been sued and he would have been sent to jail. To protect himself, he had hired these hunters, and they would have killed Bambi and all the other animals who had turned into zombies. He wanted to clear this forest. Upon hearing this, Gina yells at him, telling him that because of his mistake, his own brother and nephew are dead, and now your son and I are going through the same thing. Simon says, "I don't care. I never wanted to take on this responsibility." Benji, standing outside, listened to all this, and realizing that his dad didn't love him at all, became deeply saddened and ran away. When Benji went a little further, he saw a cage covered with a cloth. He removed the cloth and was shocked to see a baby deer inside. He realized that the hunters had used the baby as a trap to lure in the monster Bambi. Benji felt his own pain within that poor little animal. He too was away from his father. That's why he opens the cage and sets him free. Meanwhile, Bambi, who was about to kill another human, catches the scent of his child, abandons the man, and sets off to find his child. While searching for his child, he enters the hunter's camp. As soon as he arrives, he spots Benji's grandmother. Before he can eat her, his father's co-worker lets out a scream, and Bambi attacks him with great force. In the control room, everyone now seems ready to kill Bambi. The hunter tries to shoot him, but the monster lifts him up on its horns and throws him away. At this moment, Bambi faces Simon's entire family, but instead of saving his family's lives, Simon runs away to save his own. He's now in his expensive car and locked his seat. He thought he was safe, but this was his biggest mistake. He hadn't closed the rear door windows. From there, the ferocious rabbits attack him and kill him. On the other side, we're shown a scene at the camp where only Gina, Benji, and the monster are left. The terrifying zombie stands over their heads, breathing heavily and growling angrily. Before he can kill them both, his little deer, Bambi's son, emerges from the bushes. Upon seeing him, Bambi forgets them both. It's shown that Bambi was overjoyed to meet his son. The two now celebrate their reunion. But despite this, how was the story supposed to end? We are shown the hunter who had just been thrown by this monster. He was still alive, but with his last breath, he raised his gun and shot Bambi. Even as he lay dying, the hunter laughed. His laughter was so vicious that it seemed as if he had won a great battle. At this moment, Grandma emerges from the darkness and, enraged, shoots this cruel man dead. Ultimately, he too meets his end. After which, Xena takes Marie to her home. Here, the three of them witness a very emotional scene of how a father and son were separated even after being reunited. Now, because of the hunter's bullet, Bambi is separated from his son again. That means he dies. And the little deer tried to wake his father again and again, but now he wouldn't wake. This child had met his father's fate. He too was now going to spend his entire life alone, just like Bambi. And this heartbreaking story ends with that.